Good morning, welcome to a new class. Today we'll be looking at hypothyroidism. This is a condition that affects women more than men, and it's a condition of the thyroid gland. Now, there's a few parts to it. There is the Hashimoto's hypothyroidism, which is an enlarged thyroid gland, so it's called a goiter, and that happens because of an autoimmune condition. And then there's hypothyroidism, which happens as a result of that as well. So there's different avenues that hypothyroidism is caused by or it takes, but we'll look at all of it in a sort of like a spectrum. We'll look at it in a holistic way rather than discussing each aspect of hypothyroidism. We'll look at the symptoms first, how it happens according to the medical science, and then discuss how nature and nature mimicry can help us understand why this condition happens, especially in terms of iodine deficiency, which is the usual cause of hypothyroidism, and what it means for people living with this condition, how their bodies behave, and how they can understand themselves better in order to overcome this condition. So we'll dive deep into understanding the psychology behind it as well, not just the physical, but the psychological causes of it. So once you understand the psychological causes, you can kind of overcome and navigate through the condition better. First and foremost, what is hypothyroidism? It is when you have a T3 and a T4 either deficiency or there's a lack of synthesis in the hormone. So T3 and T4, these are thyroid hormones that are produced. T4 is mainly produced in the thyroid gland, okay? And around 20% is produced in the thyroid gland. Around 20% is produced in the thyroid gland. 80% is produced in other areas like liver, kidney, etc. If there is a deficiency, so if these are low, you end up getting hypothyroidism. T4 actually converts to T3. So if T4 is not synthesizing well to T3, then you end up getting hypothyroidism. One thing to note is that there's T1, T2 as well. What it means is there's an iodine atom attached to each of these 1, 2, 3. So when your body produces T4, there's a circulation of T4 in your bloodstream. What different organs do is they strip away one iodine atom from the T4 to convert it to T3. So this is simply one iodine atom difference, which makes T3 a highly active form of thyroid hormone. Okay, so this is active, and this is mainly transport and storage. It needs to convert to T3 in order to be used by the body. Now, together, these two thyroid hormones, what they do is they regulate the metabolic rate in the body. Okay, so I'll just scroll down really quick and then we can have a look at the functions of the thyroid gland. I do apologize for the lighting today. I think there's a bit of a change in the lighting. You can see my reflection in the background, but it should be okay. Thyroid gland functions, we have metabolic rate. This is the rate at which you burn calories, the transport of oxygen, etc. Burn calories in the body, okay? Which is why when you have hypothyroidism, what you get is increase in weight because you get slow metabolism. Think of hypothyroidism as an enlargement, as a slowing down, swelling, cold, wet kind of body characteristics. Okay, so when your body slows down, you get weight gain. And then there is thyroid hormones also ensure thermoregulation. Thermoregulation, and this simply means your body's ability to be intolerant or be tolerant to cold. Okay, so your body's ability to adapt to different temperatures in the environment. So if it's too cold, your body becomes hot. Your body's able to maintain its heat. And if it's too hot, your body's able to maintain its cool. You would see in hypothyroidism, you have cold intolerance, which simply means you're more prone to getting colder. You feel colder quite often. You're not able to manage the heat in your body, essentially. There is not enough heat. Okay. And then we have protein synthesis. So all I'm explaining right now is what thyroid hormones, T3 and T4, do together in the body. Protein synthesis, development of your muscles, okay? So muscles and growth. Also development of the brain, okay? Especially when you're young, especially before you come out of the womb of the mother, prenatal. So prenatal development of the brain and growth happens because of the thyroid T3 and T4, okay? So prenatal growth and brain development. These are all functions of the thyroid hormones. The thyroid hormones also ensure that your heart is more sensitive to adrenals or adrenal glands to ensure heart and blood pressure regulation. Okay, so I'm just going to put this down as heart and blood pressure regulation. And I'll show you the entire endocrine gland. This is an understanding of the basic understanding of how your endocrine organs and glands work. Hypothyroidism is an endocrine disorder. Okay, so if T3 fails, if there is not enough 3T circulating in your body, you get all these symptoms, which we're talking about right now. Weight gain and cold intolerance, lack of muscle growth, and blood pressure. Low blood pressure is quite common as well. Hypothyroid patients get low blood pressure, okay, and low heart rate. Yeah, it's a low pulse. You can almost, it's like dim because there's not enough movement. Metabolic rate is also low, so the pulse is also sort of slow. T3 also controls gut motility. Gut motility, what does this mean? It simply means the rate at which food moves down through your digestion or digestive tract. Okay, so T3 dictates this. If you don't have enough T3 circulating around your body, the rate at which the food goes down and gets digested becomes slow as well. In fact, there's not enough metabolism of fat, so cholesterol absorption and clearance, as well as glucose metabolism. Okay, so those two things are very important, glucose and cholesterol. Triglycerides are directly linked to cholesterol, and you would see in hypothyroid patients have high triglycerides simply because there is not enough cholesterol metabolism and clearance in the body. Okay, glucose, so insulin, pancreas, again, it's part of the endocrine system, which I'll explain to you soon. Your body is not able to absorb the glucose or the sugar molecules and put them into the cells because insulin slows down simply because of not enough T3 in the body. Cholesterol synthesis, insulin, slowing down of insulin, and clearance of cholesterol. This is why there's constipation as a result of lack of T3. T3 also is required and is critical for the myelination of nerve fibers. So you can almost just, the synthesis and the building of nerve fibers in the body, which regulate cognition. I'm just going to put nerve fibers here, okay? And that regulates mood, cognition. So mood, cognition, and your reflexes. When someone has hypothyroidism, they usually become depressed or have low mood because of this. Their cognition, they get brain fog, cognition slows down, and their reflexes also becomes laggy or slow. All of this is, just imagine a human body sort of slowing down, is cold, there's not enough heat in the body, there's lack of fire to burn the calories, etc. It's like the ice age for the body. Just imagine that. That's what these characteristics kind of point to. Now I'll explain to you what the endocrine system is, how each hormone plays or glands play a role in keeping the body sane. And there's a negative feedback loop that goes around in the body in the endocrine system. So first we have all the glands. So we have hypothalamus, and then we have pituitary gland, and then we have the thyroid gland. Okay, and imagine this is the human body. This is the brain over here. Okay, I'm just going to draw the brain, and then I'm just going to draw the human body like this. So just imagine there's the arms here, and this is the body. Somewhere around over here, there's the hypothalamus, and underneath it, somewhere over here is the pituitary gland. Hypothalamus, pituitary, and then we have the thyroid gland just over here. Thyroid gland, and then around here we have the thymus. Around here we have the pancreas, and then like if we scroll down a little bit, we have the testes over here, or the ovaries. So either testes, ovaries for female reproductive system. We have the kidneys in the back of the body over here, and on top of it is the adrenal glands. Okay, so kidney and then adrenal glands. Now these hormones and glands work in a loop. So what they have is they have a loop going around your body like this. So hypothalamus communicates with pituitary, pituitary communicates with thyroid, thyroid releases T3 and T4 around the blood and blood circulation, kidney, liver, adrenal glands, they all work, and testes, they all work hand in hand to ensure that the body is fertile. The body's metabolism rate is normal. The body's absorbing the foods while it's clearing out cholesterol, bad cholesterol, good cholesterol being absorbed in the body. There is liver function, there is healthy excretion of urine, etc., healthy insulin levels. The body to be in homeostasis, you need this loop. And this loop, you can say, starts off here and goes into here. There's a loop over here as well. Like, there's multiple loops, but there's a small loop over here as well. Hypothalamus, pituitary, and thyroid. This is called the HPT axis, okay? So it's gonna move around here. And HPT axis. So if I had to zoom in, what axis means? It means the connection between the three. So thyroid gland, hypothalamus, and pituitary. These work like this. Okay, there's a loop. If there is enough T3 and T4, hypothalamus produces a hormone called TRT, which tells pituitary to release a thyroid stimulating hormone. So TSH. So TRT stimulates pituitary, pituitary stimulates THC. THC tells thyroid gland to produce T3 and T4. And these work like this in a loop. Now, if there's enough T3 and the TCH and TPT, they will also go down. Okay, it will be a negative feedback loop. They will be lowered. But if there is not enough T3 and T4, your body, the pituitary gland, will be signaled that there is not enough T3 and T4. What is happening? The pituitary gland will pump out more TSH. Okay, TSH will increase if there is a decrease in T3 and T. And if there's an increase in T3 and T4, and it's a normal, healthy body, then the TCH and TPT will also go down. So that's how the feedback loop works. What happens is, even though there is sometimes enough circulation of T4, if it's not being synthesized, you'll get hypothyroidism. And if you get hypothyroidism, you get prescribed medications that basically increase thyroxine. Thyroxine is T4. You get medications that increase thyroxine in the body, which ensure that there's even more pump of T4, increasing the bioavailability of T4 so that at least some of it can turn into T3. Because it's an endocrine disorder, you also get low libido. So that's the entire endocrine system, and if one thing falls, the entire thing falls apart as well, which is why it's a very serious and severe condition. Back in the day, back in ancient civilization, what happened was people who had larger necks were associated with more landlocked inland people. That's what they observed. Physicians in every civilization, they thought, Greek, Egyptian, etc., they thought that when you're living inland, when you're landlocked, don't have enough ocean water or you don't have enough iodine, as per science today, to maintain good thyroid function and maintain a good metabolic rate. Whereas people who are close to the ocean didn't have an enlarged thyroid gland. Now, sometimes enlargement happens, sometimes it doesn't happen. An enlargement is Hashimoto's, which is an autoimmune condition, which is sort of more of an immune condition than it is of a thyroid starting condition. Like hypothyroidism, if you have to think about it, starts off with iodine deficiency from the medical world. Hashimoto's actually starts from your immune system not being able to work well, whether it's leaky gut, whether it's lack of immune regulation. All those factors, your immunity affects, it starts attacking the thyroid gland, which then starts affecting the T3 and T4 production. The starting is the immune issue, but here the starting is the thyroid gland, is the hypothalamus, pituitary, etc. So that's the sort of distinction between the two. Now let's discuss why this is happening. Apart from the autoimmune Hashimoto's type, we'll discuss why this occurs in the body. Okay, why there's not enough conversion of T3, T4, etc. One is, like I mentioned earlier, is iodine deficiency. And then we have stress, which is cortisol, affects the conversion from T4 to T3. So T4 doesn't convert to T3 if there's high levels of cortisol in the body. Okay. So that's a huge issue. There's also drug-induced hypothyroidism. Drugs which have lithium in it can inhibit a thyroid gland from producing enough thyroid hormones. Environmental toxins is huge, and prenatal or postnatal hypothyroidism. Because of these two. Postnatal, after birth, women are more likely to get hypo. And then we have environmental toxins. Now, one interesting fact is The thyroid gland has an affinity for mercury. Okay, and I'll explain that as we discuss the Egyptian culture and what they believed of the thyroid gland to be and what the planet Mercury was associated with. It's very interesting. Environment toxins. So mercury can accumulate in the thyroid gland because of, again, the heavy metals that we constantly are exposed to on a daily basis. It gets attracted to the thyroid gland, okay, and it starts accumulating in the thyroid gland. Just like there is accumulation of fluoride, which is again a chemical, in your pineal gland, the calcification of the pineal gland occurs because of that. Same thing, mercury is affected and has an affinity towards the thyroid gland, which gets accumulated, BPA as well. It doesn't get accumulated there, but it just affects your endocrine system in general. BPA, phthalates, PCBs, dioxins, cadmium, and goitrogens like fluoride. Avoid using fluoride toothpaste. Fluoride, again, gets accumulated and affects your entire endocrine system. So these are what inhibit the synthesis of T4, T3, what affects thyroid hormones. These are the main understandings and the main causes, as per research, as per science, that causes thyroid hormones to be dysregulated, okay, to not be efficient, to not be converted, to not being used in the body. Now we'll look at how ancient cultures and ancient civilizations believed the thyroid gland to be. We'll start off with the Egyptian understanding of the thyroid gland. So Egyptian and almost every civilization, every culture back in the day, they used to believe and they used to know that the planets had an influence on us. We live in an entire solar system, right? And just like the sun, just like the moon has influence on our hormones, the planets do as well. And across every civilization, they believed that it was not just one civilization, it was all. Whether it's the Hermetics, the Egyptians, the Indians, the Greeks, the Mesoamericans, Aztecs, etc. All these Chinese, they all lived in harmony with planetary alignment. And every planet was associated with a gland, especially in the Egyptian culture. The thyroid gland was associated to the planet Mercury. Okay? And Mercury governed communication, speed, nervous system, and transformation. These are all key terms for you to keep in mind because I'll discuss how this links to the thyroid gland, okay? In logic, using logic. And every planet also had a symbol, a number, a color associated with it. So for Mercury, it was the number 8, and the day was Wednesday that was associated to it. I won't go into too much cosmology or astrology, but this is just associations with Mercury, okay? And this is important for you to understand because it connects to the thyroid gland logically. There was a symbol, caduceus, attached to it, which you've probably seen in the medical day today. It's like a butterfly, and it's got like a snake. It's got wings, okay? And there's like a snake like that, okay? So these are snakes, and these are like wings. You can also think about this as the spine, the snakes being the spine, caduceus. And the color was orange, by the way, just like we're using the pen. All of these were associated with Mercury. And the reason why I want you to understand this is because if you look at the thyroid gland as for what it is, it looks like a butterfly. Okay, just have a look at the thyroid gland. You can do any Google image search. The closest thing to a thyroid gland is a butterfly. So this is how the thyroid gland looks like. And obviously in the middle there is the sternum and the neck, etc. And the spine that goes through. But it's nature mimicry. And a butterfly is usually orange. It usually represents transformation. It represents metamorphosis. Going from a caterpillar turning into a butterfly. In the Vedic culture, this is seen as a very spiritual transformation. Butterflies, especially in the psychedelic and the shamanic culture as well as the Vedic culture, it's seen as a spiritual transformation. Okay, and I'll explain to you what that means. Your body on this earth is stuck. The consciousness that you have in your body, you're on this planet. As soon as you transform, you realize that you're not the body, you realize that your consciousness itself, you transcend, you become free, you become light, you become luminous, you have clarity. And that's what the butterfly represents. If you see, when you're on a psychedelic trip, if you see, or even when you're lucid dreaming, when you're not in the body, if you see butterflies in your dreams or in a psychedelic experience, near-death experience. It's a sign that you're transforming spiritually. If you look at a caterpillar on a swan plant, right? It's stuck on a leaf and it lives and it crawls slowly every day in inertia and darkness. It's sort of like a slow, metaphorically, it's a slow, suffering kind of creature, right? It's not able to do much. It just crawls. And after some time, you have the chrysalis that gets developed. You can see it as the transforming period. And then you have the butterfly. The butterfly is free, it's clarity, it's freedom. It's freedom from the body. It's consciousness. This is what I want you to keep in mind and imagine. You're on this earth, you're stuck, transformation, and you're free. This is also in the Vedic philosophy or in the Ayurvedic system. This is known as Sattva, Rajas, and Tamas. Sattva is clarity. This is freedom. This is what we all want. We want love, freedom. We want luminosity. We want lightness in our life. We want peace. Okay, this is what it represents, Sattva. And this is Rajas, which is transformation. Okay, there's fire, there is change, there is movement. So Rajas, and this is Tamas, which is darkness, inertia, body, form. You're stuck, essentially, darkness. And we have all these three. The morning starts off as Sattva, is peace, there's clarity. When you wake up in the morning around 4 a.m., you'll experience this. You'll experience there's a very light energy in the air. You have more clarity in your thoughts. You don't have a lot of noise. As you go through the day, the noise builds up. Rajas, people are going to work. There's traffic, etc. There's movement in the day. And then at night, there is tamas. There's darkness. You're going to relax. You're resting, okay? All of these three are important. These are phases of the day, phases of your life, phases of spiritual transformation. And this is what the butterfly represents. If you look at the butterfly, it's got orange color. Mercury, the color for Mercury planet is orange, as per Egyptian culture. If you look at the symbol, it also looks like the butterfly. It's got wings. You have this spine, snakes. Snakes, by the way, if you look at our spine, it literally looks like a snake. If you look at our DNA, it looks like a double helix DNA, it looks like a snake. Snakes are cosmic creatures, and serpents are cosmic creatures. You would see this in Kundalini practices as well. Same snakes traveling up from this spine. It's seen in Egyptian gods. It's seen in Hindu gods and Shiva. This is what the thyroid gland represents. And guess what? Guess where your emotions, right? You have emotions, okay? How are emotions expressed? It's through your throat. It's through communication. It's through your vocals, okay? And it all works hand in hand. All your senses work hand in hand. You feel from your heart, you interpret from the mind, you express from your eyes, you express from your voice. But the main mode of expression, let's say I was to invoke laughter in you, let's say I was to invoke sadness in you, misery, happiness, right? All these emotions in the human body, how are they invoked? If you really think about it, they're invoked through language, through communication, through channeling your voice, right? If there was no communication, if there's silence, right, there is peace. Communication, emotions happen because of communication. It's a very basic understanding that we don't really think about, but it's important to understand hypothyroidism from this perspective. Expression, so communication allows expression, which invokes emotions. Okay. So not only, and this is like a loop, okay? It's like a loop. Your brain interprets your environment, what people are communicating to you, and in response, your brain feels those emotions. You then reflect that and you channel what you want to express, how you feel, and that expression again comes out through emotion. Okay, so the way you communicate, the language that we all speak comes from your vocal cords. You're allowed to speak because of your vocal cords. If you don't have vocal cords, you won't be able to speak. So the only channel your brain has for communication, for a complete expression of the self, is your thyroid gland, is your vocal cords. It's the channel through which you can express. Now, imagine this expression being suppressed. What will happen? Imagine this environment around you turning cold to your expression. What does it mean by cold? It means you're not allowed to say things. You're not allowed to do things. You're not allowed to say particular things that you want to say. You're not allowed to stand up for yourself, etc. You're not allowed to express yourself. And that's when you have a buildup of emotions. You have inflammation, you have stress, you have pressure. on the thyroid gland, the channel through which you're supposed to express. There is no, yes, you can express through your eyes, but how much are you going to express through your eyes? If you want to say something, it's a complete expression. So for us to be emotional, for us to be sensitive to emotions, for us to be empathetic, loving, laughter, sadness, joy, peace, all these emotions are all within us. For us to channel that, we need the vocal cords, we need the thyroid gland. The thyroid gland is that thing. Hypothyroidism is triggered when there's transformation happening in your life. That's when you need to express the most, but you're not able to express. It leads to pressure on the thyroid gland, the channel. Everything in your body is a river. Imagine all the entire nervous system in your body. It's like rivers, it's like lightning, it's like roots. Okay, there's blood that flows through your entire nervous system, blood vessels, etc. That's how Ayurveda also looks at the body. Srotamasi, which is the channels in the body. Different channels have different purposes and different roles. So if one channel is blocked, okay, if the throat channel is blocked, you get this disease. Imagine water being frozen. Okay, so there's river flowing through you, you're communicating something, you're talking about something, and suddenly that water gets stopped, right? Imagine your voice as water. What's that environment like, right? When the air and the water become cold, air becomes foggy, the water starts to freeze up. And guess what you have in hypothyroidism? You have swelling, you have wet, heavy, cold temperature, fogginess, depression, inability to move, inability for the water to flow. And you need movement, heat, you need fire, you need an invigoration of temperature, a higher temperature in order for that water to move and flow through. And that heat sort of suddenly disappears, okay, because the environment around you turns cold. You're in a transformative process. The reason why I'm talking about a transformative process is because a butterfly, okay, this is where you are when hypothyroidism is triggered. And you can think of it as logically as well. Like, as I explained this, you can sort of connect the dots and see that because the thyroid gland looks like the butterfly, we won't think of it the other way. You know, we will think it's sort of unscientific, that think of your body as a mimicry of nature, but it's actually what it is. It's not, we're made to look at it the wrong way, you know? Our entire body is a map of this entire cosmos. Okay, from one cell to the entire cosmos, our entire body is that map. Everything in nature, just like our diaphragm is shaped like a jellyfish, we breathe, it's like a jellyfish moving up, it's floating. We have the stomach that looks like a ginger, and guess what? Ginger is good for the stomach. You know, there's so many things in nature, mimicry of nature. Our blood vessels literally look like rivers, you know? They look like our eyes look like the veins in our eyes look like lightning bolts. You know, so that's the beauty. Nature has mimicry within us. It's just that we never thought about of looking at it that way, exploring that realm of why conditions form. And then we're stuck with these conditions for the rest of our lives, you know, because we never explore the natural side, the ancient civilization side of a condition of the human body. They were much more intelligent. They were much more smarter. They didn't neglect anything. They knew that one person has the power to influence the entire world, and so the world has influence on one person. If I can influence the entire world can also influence me. It goes two ways. All the planets have an influence on the human. The human themselves, just like one cancer cell can spread cancer throughout the body, you know, and the entire body can heal that one cancer cell. You know, it's like that. It's like two ways. This is the law of karma. Karma is not individualistic. It's not if I do bad to you, you do bad to me, and that's one-on-one. It doesn't work like that. You have an influence, you have a butterfly effect on the entire universe. And the entire universe, the entire cosmos, solar system has an influence on you. All the birds, we think, the ants, etc., we think they're insignificant because they're small. They're smaller than human being. We think we're the most intelligent, the most smart, the most powerful species. And sure, we are bigger than animals, right? We may be more powerful than the animals, but they are not driven, their power is not driven by ego. The animals are driven by natural balance, okay? They do and behave as per nature's requirement. But we behave out of our ego requirement, our status requirement. That's the biggest difference. That makes us more dangerous than animals, you know, because we can make things like guns, etc., that can kill animals very easily. But from ants to birds to dolphins to lions, etc., all the animals on our planet have a huge role in sustaining this planet. You wouldn't be alive if there was no ant on this planet, you know? You wouldn't be alive if there was no birds. Birds literally propagate farms, your food. They provide phosphorus, nitrogen, etc. into your food so that their food can grow, you know, so you can eat, you know? Humans can't make things like spider webs, like honeycombs, that these animals are intelligent enough to make. All I'm saying is we live in a natural world. We can't neglect that. Hence, we have to use a mapping system from the natural world to understand the human body, okay? Because that's the closest way we can heal the human body, because there's no answers. There are no answers here. This is my biggest, this is the biggest wall you hit when you're understanding science. There is, or the medical system. There is, you hit a wall at this, you know? Yes, let's say you fix stress, let's say you fix iodine deficiency, let's say you fix your environmental toxins, you'll still have hypothyroidism. Why? You know? It's because there was a phase in your life, where you were transforming, where you were changing, where you were trying to come out of your cocoon and be free. You were trying to express yourself, but it was shut down. Environment became hostile to you, okay? It became cold, you became damp, your heart rate, metabolism, brain started slowing down because you were shut from your expression, and hence you always stayed in the cocoon. You could never come out because you didn't know how to stand up for yourself, because you didn't know how to speak, because you didn't know how to express and experience the consequences of your expression, because you were scared of life, how it would look like on the other side. When you're scared to express yourself, when you're scared to be who you want to be, you never able to grow. You're never able to come out of the cocoon. You're never able to fly. There's no clarity in your life. You become damp, okay? And you just go on with life. And that's the sad reality of a lot of people who have this condition, hypothyroidism. They want to, and they do express, don't get me wrong, people who have hypothyroidism, they find other ways of expression through work, etc. But the one thing that they had to stand up to, the one thing that they had to express to when they were changing, they didn't do that then, and hence that condition started breeding in them. Okay, they started noticing that the body picked it up and it started to perpetuate that. And slowly you get all these symptoms, which we discussed earlier. You get all these conditions, and it's a complete havoc. It's a complete fallout of the body. It's like, because you're not able to express, your whole body suffers. You know, you're holding it in your throat, and guess what? Your throat starts becoming, your thyroid gland starts becoming inflamed, it starts becoming bigger, and hence you can see it physically as well, gland becoming bigger, right? It's like physical understanding. There is a pressure on that channel that is not able to be expressed. It's not flowing, you know? Keep all of this imagination in your mind and try to visualize how a person would look like with hypothyroidism. How would their life be? You know, would they be enjoying life, or would they be living up to the expectations of other people in their life, just so they don't have to face the consequences of their expression? There are consequences to expression. You don't know what life is like. The caterpillar doesn't know what the butterfly's life is like, because it never comprehends flight. You know, it's a beauty. Like, look, it's insane if you think about a land creature turning into a creature that can fly. It's a completely different world that these two live in. You know, transformation is the cocoon. There is a transformative period in everybody's life where they have the opportunity to come out of the cocoon and do something great, become something great, express themselves. But when they fear the consequences, you know, when they look too far ahead in the future and they fear that, they become shunned, they become slow, they start resenting people and the future. So that is, all in all, what hypothyroidism is. It's the resentment you have for change. How about, what if you just let go? What if you just face your consequences? What if you just express yourself, be who you want to be, and allow the consequences just flow? Whether it's good and bad, you don't really know. The caterpillar doesn't know whether the butterfly is going to be good and bad. At least you're expressing. At least you're free from the attachment to the consequences. At least you're free from understanding that no matter who you are, no matter what you do, it doesn't matter at the end of the day. You'll be a butterfly, at least, you know? There are things like herbs like ashwagandha. There's, again, iodine. Having enough iodine in your diet If you look at iodine, iodine is actually used by seaweed. First, it comes from volcanic rock, which basically disintegrates through waterfall over time, billions of years, and gets flown through the rivers to the ocean. The seaweed uses it for protection against UV light as well as wave action. If you look at seaweed, if you look at creatures in the ocean, they all use it as a defense mechanism, as a protective mechanism. Iodine gives you your entire endocrine system. It's literally giving you a defense system. It's protecting you. And that's why, if you look at it metaphorically again, it's to build your strength. Okay? It's to build your ability to express yourself. If you keep taking iodine, again, excess iodine, in fact, as well, is harmful. If you have too low or nothing, it's also bad because your body won't be able to learn how to defend itself. You need to know how to defend yourself. You need to know how to stand up for yourself, which means when you express, it means you have the power, the strength to face the consequences. And you're not fearful of the consequences because you're strong. Okay? It's not that you don't have anything, and because you're scared of the consequences, you stay in the cocoon. So it works in both ways, right? If you have the power, if you have the strength, you'll stand up for yourself. You'll express easily. If you know that the consequences are going to harm you because you're powerful, that's one way of thinking about it. The other way of thinking about it is just to express. Because we get made to believe, since we're a child, grow up in a society where we think we're not significant. We think that we're very small. Our expression, our voice, our ability to be who we are, it doesn't really matter. So we keep sacrificing, we keep compensating, we keep sacrificing our expression. And that sacrifice starts building up in our body. And when you compromise and you just allow things to happen as they are, even though it's against your way of being, against your expression, and you have people around you that take advantage of you, people around you that put pressure on you to be a certain way when you don't want to be that way, and you're not able to stand up and say no, that's when you become slow to life. And becoming slow and cold to life is a worse thing to happen than if you were to express yourself. So your body holds things. Your body holds trauma. Your body holds everything that you come across in your life. Okay, it holds that. It keeps that. But if you don't allow it to flow, right, if you're blocking the channels, right, if there's something inside you that's telling you to do something and you're not following that, you're blocking the channel. You're blocking that expression. So there are many ways to understand expression. Communication is one way, and that's what the focus is on in hypothyroidism. It's communication. Even if you look at Hashimoto's, you can sort of link that to communication and a blockage in communication. I'm looking at the thyroid gland as if you look at a zoom out lens, that's how you should observe things. It's not just one detail. You have to zoom out and see the whole picture. What is happening? Why is this person freezing? You have things like ashwagandha, which can help with your ability to adapt to stress. When the butterfly is in a cocoon, when it's trying to come out of a cocoon, in fact, that's the most stressful environment, most stressful time for it. When you're trying to change, when you're just about to change, it's the most stressful time. Okay, it's the most growth when you face. When you're picking up a dumbbell, right? When you're exercising, when your muscles are in stress, that's when there is most pain, for example. It's difficult to do strength training. But when you're resting, that's when the muscle starts building. It starts growing. So coming out of the cocoon, it's very hard. There is a very stressful phase in the butterfly's life. But when it gets released, that's when it grows and it becomes a complete butterfly. This whole analogy of the butterfly and the caterpillar it's a framework to understand your thyroid gland. Okay, it's to understand the conditions that happen with the thyroid gland. It's your expression. There was a stressful time in your life where you couldn't defend yourself. You couldn't fully come out of the cocoon, so you stayed in the cocoon, and that cocoon became cold. It became the cocoon became larger. It became inflamed because you couldn't come out, and that's why you got hypothyroidism. But if at that time, or if now even, you choose to live a life where you understand that you matter, understand that your voice matters, like I was saying earlier, we're made to believe that as humans, we're just one person, that we don't affect our entire universe, Ancient culture, ancient people, ancient civilizations, they all believe that we're made in the image of God. And that's what I'm trying to say, is when you look at nature and you map that on your body, you start believing that from the nebula formation of the cosmos. If you look at the eye, it's the mapping, right? It's the same. The eye looks like the nebula cosmos. There are things in our body that have been mapped to show that we're made perfect. We're made in the image of God. God is perfect. This entire earth is perfect. It's the way it's made. It's the gravity, the moon, the sun. If there was two suns, it would be chaos. If there was two moons, it would be too much gravitational pull. It would be chaos. It is a perfect balance. Your eyes, the way the vision is coming out and you're experiencing this world through your eyes, it's to perfection. If there was one cell, one retina issue, you would go blind essentially. So you have this understanding, you have this people in ancient civilization that believed and they had an understanding that they can influence the entire universe. And so can you. That's why your expression matters. That's why when you express fully from your heart, when you laugh fully, when you live a life without fear, when you live a life in love, when you live complete life, you're acting out of perfection. And you'll only do good. When you do that, when you follow your heart, you only do good on this planet. When you follow your heart, you start loving. Your energy starts changing. When you follow your heart, people around you start changing. So it's very important to let go of the consequences that you perceive in your mind that is going to happen when you start fully expressing. Let go of that. Free yourself from the cocoon's environment that you're suffocating with. Reflect, write things down. Understand why you're not able to express yourself. And mind you, for everybody, it's going to be different. It's not the same for everyone. Expression looks different for everyone, But when you have a thyroid condition, it's your communication that you have to focus on. It's your voice that you have to think about, why and what is happening. So pay attention and understand that just like Buddha had the power to make the entire world peaceful, you have the power to make your life beautiful. And the way you express yourself is going to influence everybody around you. So you hold power. You have iodine in your body. You have the defense mechanisms. You have the strength that will protect you from the consequences that are going to occur because of your expression. So allow your channels to flow. Give yourself permission to come out of that cocoon. Okay? Move your mind away from the future and the past and just act how you would act if you were in the present moment. Okay? And live your life that way. When you do that, when you live in full expression, there is much more freedom, there is much more clarity, luminosity, and vibrancy in your life. What you believe in your mind is an illusion. It's a framework that, you've read somewhere or you have theorized, but there's a new life waiting for you. You don't have to be a caterpillar. You can be a butterfly. And that's the beauty. Yin and Yang, Shiva and Shakti. You can be both. I know I didn't discuss diet, herbs, lifestyle, etc., but it's all the same for every disease. You have herbs that can help you, have supplements that can help you, zinc, selenium, ashwagandha, a good diet. Coriander is great. But again, if you don't know how to express, which has a much more larger influence on your thyroid condition, then all of the things that you can search up on Google won't do much as well. They'll do some level, but they won't do the yang or the yin. So you have to, in order to achieve harmony, homeostasis, balance, just like one cell has the power to heal the entire body, one cell has the power to create cancer in the entire body, you have the power through your expression to change your entire life. Through metamorphosis, become a butterfly. And that is the teaching hidden in hypothyroidism. Have a great rest of your day. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you for the next class where we will discuss chronic fatigue syndrome.